keyboard on this computer. Welcome again to another installment of Tyson's Ward Family History Hour for 45 minutes or half hour. We'll see how long it is. But today we wanted to talk about family history interviews, and I just got off the phone with my mom because, you know, for many things with genealogy and family history, my mom is my inspiration. 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago, she started to feel an inspiration that she needed to get her mom's story. At the time, my grandma was living with my mom's mom was living with her sister, obviously rather old, and they after my mom taught school, and she would go over after school and just chat with them. And so what she started doing is writing down their stories. And so she did that, frequently, multiple times a week. And what was nice about that is getting like two sisters together to talk about, what do you remember from your childhood? And as a result, she got all these stories down, and it was very fortuitous or truly inspired in that, a year later, my grandma's sister passed away. My grandma started having dementia and couldn't remember the stories just a year later. Also my mom had talked to their brothers, and one of them passed away from a year from when my mom had started talking to them. And then the other one also had dementia. And so it was, that's one of the things that I realized as we get older is the need to write down these stories. It's also why I need to interview my mom. Even though my mom has written down her family history, I need to chat with her. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to have Nathan talk today about what you have done since you've actually done this, actually talked with your in-laws, and just wanted to get what you thought, what you learned, but mostly, and also to start, Nathan, like, why family history interviews? How did you get started? What were you? Just that.
Okay. Well, we got a little bit of some background noise here, but I'll try and speak over it. Hopefully we filter it out. So the big reason that I had for trying to do audio interviews was my in-laws. English is their second language, and they're comfortable with English, but they feel like expressing themselves in writing, they're unable to really get their emotions across. And I found in my experience that was very true, that as I spoke with them, they were able to relay a different range of emotions in an interview versus in a kind of a written history, which they have also tried to do. And so that was a big reason. I also just like that format. I like listening to podcasts, and I thought, hey, I'll try my hand at doing that in a, something that's like productive for people. And so this one was kind of a Christmas project for our family, and it ended up turning out pretty good, and I learned a lot going through the process. But yeah, the audio interview really allows you to capture and go down different avenues that you either didn't know existed at all, or you were not expecting to kind of explore.
I have to unmute myself. What did you hope to learn, and by doing this, and how was that different than what you kind of actually learned? Was there kind of unexpected things that you learned by going through the process of doing audio interviews?
Yeah, some of the kind of memories that came out that were really interesting. There's definitely kind of a goal. So that was something that I thought worked really well and worked better than I thought. Was we focused a lot of the conversations around Christmas and Christmas memories. Now that led to hours of audio content, right? And most of it was not about Christmas, but we did go over a number of the family traditions and where they came from. Like Best Family always does oranges in a sock. It's like oranges and walnuts. And so there are a bunch of families here that do that, but oranges are pretty hard to get in South Korea, especially in the 50s, 1950s. And so hearing them explain why they did that and felt the need to do that with their family was really interesting. And it was a story that nobody in their family had heard. And so it ended up being a really kind of a neat experience while we were, opening stockings, and we could talk about, wow, I know where this comes from now. So yeah, that's kind of one of the I wasn't planning on limiting the scope to just doing Christmas. I wasn't planning on that being super effective or enabling us to talk about other things, but it ended up kind of uncovering a whole bunch of other stuff. And I will say that some of it I did not choose to share with the family for obvious reasons if you heard the audio. But I think that having that is also really cool, and is something that maybe later I would be willing to share or not share. I have no idea. You get things that you don't expect, which is interesting.
Yeah, which definitely has its own value. My next question for you is, how did you do it? What were the tools that you used? I know that you've gone really in depth on this, so I wanted to get your thoughts about how you actually recorded these interviews.
Yeah. So my mom does kind of what Dan does for the Milwaukee Steak, and is their family history rep and runs the Family History Center. And so before I started all this, I talked with her and I said, hey, have you done audio interviews or have you led kind of workshops on how to do that? And she said no, and that she would get asked by a number of particularly non-members who came into the family history centers if they had resources on how to do it. And she pointed out that you can go into Family Search and record short-ish snippets, and they call them My Memories. You can log in and do that and record these short clips of audio, which is really valuable if you're a member of the church, or you have a Family Search account, or you want it to live there. Being who I am and kind of doing the stuff that I do, I was like, wait a second. If I was going to do like field recordings that, could go, because you can donate those stories to oral history libraries and other things. If I was going to do basically museum quality recordings, what does that look like? And so I did some research and found some software to use for editing the audio. I borrowed some audio recording equipment from somebody at work who has they do one of the professional podcasts for Thomson Reuters. And so I borrowed their stuff and I went and did this, I recorded audio, captured it, and then edited it, and then wrote up like what I found out, right? There's really 3 tiers. You can do the budget, like you're just trying to get it. Maybe you don't have enough time to get everything ready, or you don't know if you're going to do a whole bunch of these. You can do kind of a medium, middle of the road setup, which will enable you to record multiple people, like interviews with groups, small groups, really well. Or you can do the professional one, which would, you know, allow you to, submit something to the Smithsonian if you wanted to, right? And so that's what I ended up with. And I didn't buy any software. I did have to borrow some equipment that if I had to buy would have been a couple $100. Not more than that, but it's not for like buying lunch one day. It's more expensive than that. So yeah, that's kind of what I ended up doing, like the process, because I really did want to collect good raw audio, and then I also saved it. Right, I had a place to save it, and I used the SoundCloud app to host it, because I can host a private playlist and share that with family members, so that they can listen on their phone. They have a way to, like, if you have a 30-minute recording, my experience is nobody sits down and just listens to it. A lot of the times people would so in my family, right, the small audience, they would put it on while they were doing dishes or while they were driving. And so you really get about 10 minutes of good focus, and then they'll switch to something else. And so I shot for audio that was in between 8 and 15 minutes, and I tried to clip it down, and then I put it on SoundCloud so that there was an easy way to get it, right? They didn't have to download anything. They could just go to the URL and listen like they would their favorite SoundCloud rapper or whoever else they're checking out.
We all have our favorite SoundCloud rappers. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I didn't even think I needed to say that, but in case people didn't use SoundCloud.
So as people are starting to think about this, do you have any thoughts about just one of the things I'll show people in just a minute is the Church's app, the Church's Memories app, and how to do that, because it's really easy. And as well as just where you can upload this information or these audio on the pages on Family Search. Do you have any recommendations, any thoughts about just the questions? How do you get started thinking about what questions to ask your relatives?
Yeah, so that's actually where I probably spent most of my research when I was getting ready to do the interview. Just because I think, it's nice to have good quality, it's nice to have nice equipment, but if you have garbage questions, your interviews come out poorly, no matter how good the equipment is. And so there are a number of really, really solid resources that have kind of worksheets. They're either templates or they're worksheets to help you prepare the interview. And that preparation piece that's the number one thing, right? Just kind of have your list. And it's not like you sit down and say, like, here, I'm going to ask you a question. Question one. What I found was way more effective was I would tee up what we were going to talk about. So I did I did four sessions over the course of a couple of weeks. And so in my head, I organized, the first session into like early life, pre-marriage memories. And then the second session was marriage and life in Korea. Then the third session was the transition or the emigration from Korea to America. And then the final one was kind of the period after they got settled down to now. And what I would do is tee that up, kind of explain what I was hoping. And that helped frame their answers. And of course, we went all over the place. And it wasn't always in a nice linear fashion, right? They would jump to, yeah, last year this happened, and we were talking about, 1945 or something like that. But what it ended up doing was it gave them as interviewees a little bit of confidence because they saw that I had a plan, which was good. Um, and it also gave me confidence, what you need when you're interviewing somebody, so that they feel comfortable. That's the biggest challenge, is getting somebody just to the point where they feel comfortable. And so usually the first couple of questions are just a little icy, right? So you want to throw out, you don't want to throw out your good questions until later. So I started with simple stuff, and I used some of these resources. Ancestry.org has a really good, like, preparing to give an interview post with some links and resources. And then, so I used that to kind of help build what I was going to talk about. But yeah, kind of coming up with a plan. It doesn't have to be I'm going to ask this, then this, then this. It's more of I would like to cover these areas. Here are sample questions, and we'll see where we go. Because once the interview really gets rolling, it fills in. It fills in itself. You'll find that you run out of time, and that was the other tip, was like limiting how long you were talking. So I went on my lunch breaks at work. So I would go over there, and with the expectation that I would just be doing a 45-minute to 60-minute interview, which meant we would start right away, start talking, and then once it kind of got to the end, we would stop. And especially if you're interviewing older people, they can get a little tired, or you will get tired of kind of sitting there, because it can require a bit of brain power to like pay attention. And I'm taking notes the whole time, so I'm like making marks. I'm watching the timer, and I go, oh, at 5 minutes 25 seconds they mentioned this, like I want to make sure I go back and edit that. So it can be a little tiring, because yeah. So just kind of limiting and planning for a multiple interview session. And if you are going to use something like My Memories, you have, I'm pretty sure they do have a limit on how big each interview can be. So you could use that as your guide, right? If you're just going to interview your mom or your grandma and you want it to be pretty informal, just kind of having in your head that you have 15 minutes, and you'd sit down, turn it on, talk, save it, and then come back later and do it again.
I need to unmute myself again. That's been a theme today with all the conference calls I did for work, and now this. Yeah, just having. I used to do a lot of radio interviews for work, and getting good questions makes that conversation go so much better. And I know that the same definitely applies for family history. That's the nice thing about what my mom was able to do with, stopping and talking, stopping after work and chatting with her mom every day, and her aunt, because it's like every day you could ask those questions. What my mom also did with my grandparents, my dad's parents used to come over to dinner every Sunday at my parents' house. And what my mom would do there is she would write a question for like every Sunday for them. And my grandma would then like write a page response to like these questions, like how did you meet, like something in high school, like when my dad was born, things like that. And so as a result, they're now, as a result, my mom now has 140 pages, handwritten pages from my grandma, just over time. And that's, my grandma passed away a couple of years ago now. And again had, I don't know, she had a stroke, and, for the last few years. So just getting that while she was healthy, that I will, one of the things that Nathan mentioned was, just there are a lot of there are a lot of resources out there. There we go. About family history. And Nathan just sent me this link. By the way, here's a link from New York Public Library. What's your story? Conducting interviews for genealogical research. If you search for family history interviews, there is so many resources out there. And here's the one that Nathan was just talking about from ancestry.com. There's just a lot of great resources if you can spend some time. The church also has resources. Here's questions for interviewing family members. That's from the church in their members' guide to temple and family history work. The resources are legion. It's just a question of us taking the time to put in some effort. And on the family history, on family search, if we for individual pages, we generally start here on the details page, and then across the top, one of the things that's here is the memories tab. And frequently what's on the tab, we have we have pictures. Here's my great grandparents, their 50th wedding anniversary, which is great, which is kind of how I remember them the most. And though I was 4, I think, when that picture was taken, some documents, priesthood certificate, sealing certificate, their marriage certificate, and then some stories that are written stories. And below that, there is where you can upload audio. And there's Adele, FLAC. Don't need to upload any Adele songs, but yeah, you just click on upload audio and you can upload the video. And I think you're right, Nathan, I meant to look this up, but I think it's like a 15-minute, I think it is a 15-minute limitation on what you can upload in the audio section. We will see if I can make this work. Uh-oh, shoot. All right, there we go. This is the church's, well, some of the church's apps, but on the Memories app, the specific Memories app, it has the same sort of information where you can upload pictures and you could bookmark things and other documents. And then the audio tab at the upper right-hand corner, this is the iOS version. And then if you click on that microphone version, and then the lower right-hand corner, record audio. And one of the nice things is it gives you these topics. And I've actually recorded a couple of these just about me. And that's something else we can do is just go through these, and because, like, let's say that I die tomorrow, or let's say that the coronavirus gets me and I'm in no place. I would like my kids to remember how I met, my version of events and how I met my wife, or some of the moments that impacted my life the most. So, like we think about this frequently as in asking older people, but I also think it's important that we get down probably for ourselves as well, since we don't know how this is going to happen in life. So this is really easy to use. The audio quality is surprisingly good. It is, it's not perfect. It's not the most professional quality. However, there was a radio interview that I did once, and the way that it works is that they would have you download an app onto your phone, and so you talk on like a landline. So you talk on the phone twice. So I'm holding the phone in one hand, I'm holding my cell phone in the other. The cell phone is recording it. After the interview was recorded, I uploaded it to them, and the sound quality was really good, much better quality than just like your regular phone call quality. So the point is that your phone does really quite a good job of audio, and yeah. So that is it. There we go. So, do we have any? We've gone a half hour, which is right on time. Do we have any questions? What are the best economical ways to record oral histories? Any tips or hints for the technical stuff? Was that from you, Susan?
Yes, it is for me. So
Okay.
you mentioned that you said a smartphone and headset. Do you just mean like my earbuds? Really? That's the best way. So like, what if I'm like sitting across the table talking with my mom or dad? Like, what's the best way?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends. It's like you would want to set a budget and figure out kind of what you're going to do, and what your needs were. So, like Dan was explaining, you can use kind of the easiest, lowest barrier to entry is probably using your phone and an app like the Family Search app to do those small audio snippets, or just take and record audio with your smartphone. And
how do I do that with my smartphone? I'm sorry. I'm so not tech savvy with my smartphone.
I did not bring mine
It has the
down.
capability of doing that though? I can just,
Yes.
do I need a special app to do that?
I don't think so. I think they're called voice notes if you're using an iPhone.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. They look like this, voice memos.
Voice memos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And how long can those be?
whoops. There it is, the voice memo app. Right.
Okay.
So if you have an iPhone, you can use this, and it just records stuff. And they can be pretty long. I mean, it will take up space on your phone, so you'll want to figure out how to move them off. But that's one way. If you are, so you can get kind of a setup that's a little nicer. If you're, you want to spend less than $200, but you want good quality and you want it to not be tied to your phone for whatever reason, then you can buy a small field recorder, like a digital recorder, and you can carry that with you, which does it. I mean, that's going to do a great job, right? That's what like NPR reporters would use. They'd use nicer field recorders, like the higher end ones, but you can buy a one that's a little bit lower, and since you're not putting it on the radio, it's not going to matter, right? And it would be fine. So there's these. You have these like digital recorders. You also have these. There's that Zoom 4-track portable recorder, the one that Dan's looking at. Something like that is kind of your step up.
Those look fancy.
So the really nice thing about that one over the smaller, cheaper ones, if you are interviewing two people together, you can plug in 2 microphones, which again, this is all like, does this really matter? Probably not. But if each person has their own microphone, then you capture audio from separate, focused channels. So if somebody, like this happened in my interview, my father-in-law had like a coughing fit, and so he just clip his audio off, right? You just turn it off, and I'm just recording my mother-in-law, and she's explaining a story, and I didn't have to throw that away because he's coughing, away from his microphone, and she's still talking into hers. Because of where they're capturing audio, it didn't really matter. So that's, if you're going to be doing it a lot, or if you're going to do a bunch of couples or something like that, I think it's worth it to get the multi-channel input. Like, you're not going to be mad that you did it. But if it's you just have like a couple people you want to talk to, and you're going to do mostly one-on-ones, I think your phone is probably more than enough.
Okay. What I was thinking is having my nieces and nephews interview my parents for different.
Mm,
And so just because, and this is my own thing, is my grandfather passed away when I was probably 9, and I can't remember his voice.
yeah.
Like, I wish I had a recording of his voice. And my aunt passed away last year, and I kept her voicemails on my phone. And I just love hearing their voice. And
Yep.
so, yeah, so I was just thinking that would be something nice to work on. You mentioned a SoundCloud app. What is
Yeah,
that?
that's just, yeah. So this is where you get into the, like, I'm talking to my mom,
Uh-huh.
and the kind of the pieces that we've been talking about are really straightforward, right?
Yeah.
I can record it on my phone, and then I have the audio.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do from the very beginning to the very end, right? I want to go all the way to, I'm going to share it with somebody else. And I
Okay.
want to share it in a way that, my requirements were, I don't want anybody to have to create an account anywhere, and I want it to be private. So if you have the link, you can listen. If you don't, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And SoundCloud will let you load up a few hours worth of really high quality audio,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can host it and share it with people. You could also use YouTube or something else where you're
Oh,
hosting. Um,
I'm
and with
just.
YouTube, you'd probably have to do a little bit of funny technical stuff to make it so it was a video file, but it's really just audio with like a picture in the background. But
Okay.
yeah, so SoundCloud's just it's a audio hosting platform, and so I
Mm-hmm.
just loaded it. I created small episodes, loaded them on there. Yeah, if I can, let me log on. Can I share the screen, Dan? Do you know if I can do that, or only the host?
You should be able to, because I think, well, I'm under Mike Moriarty, so I can't.
Let me see here. Home. I'll show you what mine looks like
You,
if I can.
I can't. I'm not seeing how to make you a presenter. Manage participants.
Oh, so here you go.
Stop video. Make host. Let's try it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
you can host now.
Okay. How do I? And then I want to share my screen.
So you hover over the bottom.
Yep. Mute more.
Mm-hmm.
Invite, chat, record on this computer, record to the cloud.
You don't have a share screen?
I don't see one. Let me make it big. Ah. All right. Tracks on SoundCloud. Here we go. Okay. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's great.
So this is your SoundCloud app.
This is SoundCloud, right? So the only person that had to create an account was me, and I'm fine doing that, right? I'll do the work.
Yeah.
So you'll see here, these are the 4 that I've uploaded so far, and they're nice HD, so they sound really good. And it's in a playlist. So if somebody just wanted to have it play in order, they would hear the family structure, in-laws, tithing, how everything worked, early Christmases in Korea, and a marriage proposal. And I put the stories kind of generally in a group like that.
Okay.
And then I can just, as long as you see this, it says it's private. So as long as I share the link, the people that I want to, have listen to it, that's it.
So you can store your files here in the cloud app and then share out from there.
Yeah, and so if anybody has it, you can do it on your phone, on your computer. You can see here, I've used 16%. So I think you get 90 minutes of audio, which is pretty good if you're doing these small, 6, 7, 10-minute clips.
Yeah. So did you said you interviewed them for like 45 minutes, and then you would just take that up out and then you edit, like cut them into different stories. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd do 45 minutes. I think the longest one I did was an hour and a half session, and then we'd cut it down.
Yeah. So Dan, on the app, the Memories app where you can just record the stories, how long can those be?
I believe it's for each one is 15 minutes.
Oh, really? That's a good length of time.
I think that's right. I will
Okay.
I'll try to look that up, but I think
Okay.
it has a 15-minute time limit.
Can those files from the Memories app be transferred into something like the cloud or like this cloud app? Or can you take the files and go between the two?
I don't know.
That is a good question. I'll have to look into that. I mean, it's all digital audio. You can get it out. It just depends on if you have to jump through hoops or not.
Yeah, so as long as I get it on some kind of digital file, I can play with it from there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you guys give me some good ideas.
Well, great. That's my job.
I liked what you said about building up to the questions, because some of those questions on that Memories, like something that you want to tell your family that they'll know for years from now. Like you definitely want to take questions and build up to a bigger question like that. So yeah, you guys gave me some good things to think about. So
Yeah, and one thing that I learned was, you take a question like that, having the multi-day, like planning to, like Dan said, if you're doing it every day, you have a ton of chances. And you'll know when the timing and the mood is right to ask one of the bigger ones.
yeah.
If you're going to do just 4, you have multiple chances just in case, like I know one day we talked and like my mother-in-law was really emotional that day. So it was just certain things we probably didn't want to talk about. So that one, I learned about a gruesome death in the family, and we didn't talk about it that day. We went back and talked about it another day, which was really eye-opening, right? Beth had no idea. And somebody else, another member of the family that is not directly related, I actually talked to after I found out and realized that I had a couple extra details than even they did. And it was their parents or their father. And so anyways, like really kind of a powerful experience because it connected me to, my in-laws, it connected to me, my family, but also other members of the family that I didn't really have a relationship with. So
yeah,
very positive.
wow, that's wonderful that you were able to have such positive relationship building experiences with them. I guess that's a blessing that comes from doing this. Or those relationships.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you both for participating.